Hi, today we are going to look at how the world of Azeroth looked back in its first days. Now, not in the days of pre-Sundering calendar, but instead its first days in World of Warcraft. Starting from the Eastern Kingdoms, the oldest map by far is this one, from around 2002, shared by Jeff Kaplan. The southern half of the continent is fairly similar to the released version, with the exception of the two islands off the shores of Stranglethorn, Gilligim's Isle and Island of Dr. Lapidus. Moving next, there is a strange peninsula behind the place where Stormwind should be. The coast of zones surrounded by mountains also match the terrain styles of the zones themselves. Except the spikes east of wetlands, this part of the continent isn't too strange. Let's move to Lordaeron. The terrain in the north looks much more unfinished and shares little resemblance to newer versions. Hinterlands were originally just called the Airy Peaks, with completely different layout. Hillsbred foothills are also absent from this version, with the whole zone being titled as Alterac Mountains. Lordaeron Lake also stretches farther in the south compared to other versions. However, it is quite accurate to its representation in Warcraft 3. Speaking of lakes, Terrormere Lake is located farther in the west, occupying the location of today's Underhall. But the coolest difference in this map, in my opinion, is the old Zul'Aman, present in the place where Eastern Plaguelands should have been. This place, similar to Warcraft 3, was briefly present in the oldest versions of WoW and was removed from the game even before the first leaked version, 053. However, the terrain itself survived and had been present for many later versions in the game. Next up, there is this taxi map, which was also present in the game files for a long time. While it looks quite complete, I suspect that some parts of this image were modified to look much more complete than they were. It's hard to tell due to the resolution of the image, but the Stormwind Peninsula was apparently intended to consist of the whole city. The post-process changes include fixing the mountains around Redridge, Dun Morok and Quel'Thalas, polishing the coasts and removing Gilneas. Lordaeron is also much more similar to the way it looks now, with Terracefield Glades, Western Plaguelands, Silver Pine Forest, Hillsbred Foothills and Hinterlands being almost finished in terms of landscape and layout. Lordaeron Lake also received its usual borders, but Alterac Mountains and Arathi Highlands are still highly unfinished. Eastern Plaguelands also begin to take shape here, but the whole area is still covered with the old Zul'Aman. What we have here now is the Eastern Kingdoms map from 053. This map is pretty similar to the previous ones. The two Stranglethorn Islands are better visible now, Stormwind also appears for the first time, mountains between wetlands and Dun Morok are also added, and Blackrock is also now clearly present. In Lordaeron, Alterac Mountains are finally added, and Arathi Highlands also seem to be finished. Zul'Aman is also replaced with the Eastern Plaguelands as we know them. However, there is something strange about this map. If you look closely at Elven Forest and Duskwood, you can see that the terrain on the right looks much brighter than the rest of the zone, while the watercolor is completely different. The reason, as I suspect, is that this map was put together from minimaps rendered with two different versions of the engine, possibly even from different versions of the game. Next map is part of the world map from 053, but before continuing I must show you something else. In 053, the zones had their individual map images, but they were only parts cut from the whole minimap, with areas outside the zone darkened. I have filtered out the dark parts and increased their brightness. Then, I have combined them into one big map. Please enjoy the oldest detailed map of the Eastern Kingdoms. From this map, we fast forward to the version of the world as playable in the actual alpha version 053. Major changes include the addition of the Twilight Grove in Duskwood, some modifications to the Crescent Tower, and the removal of Stormwind Peninsula. Ironforge Airport is also present near the city. In Lordaeron, there are some modifications in Gilneas and Undercity. Dalaran now also has the magical dome above it. Now we are moving to patch 055, the first beta release. Say goodbye to the Stranglethorn Islands, as they were removed in this patch, never to appear again. However, they remained in the world map for quite some time. As you can see, Zul'Gurub was also completely revamped in this version. The coasts were also finished in almost all places in the continent. The most important thing included in this version is Outland. If you didn't know it, Outland was actually planned to be released during Vanilla, alongside Quel'Thalas, Both were postponed to Burning Crusade. I show the differences between the old Outland and the newer version in one of my other videos. Version 06 sees some modifications to the coast of Stranglethorn and also some small changes and fixes to various cliffs and mountains around zones. Ravenholm Manor is also added to Hillsbrad, and the Scarlet Monastery has some small but visible changes. By the way, if you didn't know it, it was actually me who discovered and leaked this version some time ago. Patch 07 has some small changes to the terrain in various zones. Purgation Isle off the coast of Hillsbrad is now present, and Jinta Alor in Hinterlands is completed. Eastern Plaguelands also see some updates to the textures, and Plaguewood is now reworked. As there are no changes in 08, we shall move straight to 091, showing some notable changes. In Blasted Lands, Netherguard Keep is moved more to the east. As you can see, the lava around Blackrock is now also visible. Stone Road Dam in Loch Modan is now also in its final state. Moving to Western Plaguelands, Cardero is now connected to the mainland and mostly finished. At long last, here is the released version of the Eastern Kingdoms, patch 100. Deadwind Pass has undergone massive changes in the terrain, and the Karazhan Tower was totally reworked. As you can see, the water is now rendered in the usual fashion. Dronhold Keep has also received its final appearance by this version. Well, it's now all for this video, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Goodbye in the next one.